right, well, we have the nucleus of our gang here. Why don't we get started? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This will be really our last so-called class day together. On Wednesday, the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have everyone come in and leave me your papers, and we'll hold up doing anything until we get everybody in. And I'll have just a couple of final things to say to you. I'll collect your papers and I'll go ahead. Let me say this though. After you drop your papers off, I'm going to do the senior papers first. A week from today, let's say a week from today, if you're out this way, next week is reading, pardon me, reading week?
Finals week.
And finals. Oh.
Well, reading week is only from Thursday to Friday, and then finals start Monday.
Oh, so this week, Thursday to Friday, okay.
Yeah, school, the U of R doesn't really care.
Friday may be a little, yeah, I know it will be too soon, but Monday. Can you, how are you gonna get your papers? What's the plan? You're gonna navigate over here and pick them up? All right, Mondays, I'll be here from 9 to 1, and Wednesdays from 9 to 1. I would suggest you call though, first be sure I've read your paper, or if I'm gonna read it that day, I'll have them in order. Everybody know my number? Because I know. I was 275, I think it's 9785, am I right? Am I right?
I've never called you.
Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. I'll find out.
Wait, on the syllabus, you have 2756895.
That's it, 275. I knew it, I was just checking you all. 275, what's the rest of it?
6895.
68, that sounds correct, 6895, all right.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna be here after Sunday. Will you be around, like, well, so I guess you should definitely read mine last, cause I'm coming back. I'm gonna be in Rochester, like, all summer.
I'll be here every Monday and Wednesday,
Like
even after the semester ends.
Okay, even in like, end of May, like May 20th, or, okay.
I'm gonna keep them here, I'm not gonna take them home, because I'm not gonna risk misplacing them, so I'll keep them right here, I'll read them here and keep them here.
Okay, cause I'm gonna be gone for a couple weeks, but I'll be back.
Okay. Now remember now, in case you get a little anxious, the paper grade will be first in the back, last sheet, and then beneath that I'll put semester grade. So you have two grades, you have a grade on your paper and you have a grade for your overall work during the semester. All right, good. Yes?
And when we had talked last week, you said it would be okay for like some non-seniors if you need the extra time to hand it in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. If you need extra time, don't worry about that. Let's say that you need work on it maybe another day. Get it to me though. What date did I say?
So it's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, in that like 9 to 1 slot.
Okay.
Like the latest by then.
All right. Why don't we do it that way? I didn't bring my calendar. What's a week from Wednesday is the what? The 10th, isn't it? Yeah. I had to have it by the 10th, but I don't want you to take advantage of that to slacken up, because still try to get it in this Wednesday. That's best. Don't ever be a sluggard with any paper that you're doing, simply because you just don't know what's going to happen. Papers are very strange, simply because I've known at least two instances where a professor has died from the last class until the time that the work is due. So the school had to, these were the anticipation of final exams, but the professor died. Strange. One of my friends at Casanova College, and another one at, I believe, one of the other local colleges here. But it left nobody knew what the grade was, so the school had to give everybody One instance, a blanket grade, like a B, everybody got a B or something like that. The other one, they had a graduate student who was a part of the class to administer the, the exam. It's very, very sad. But things like that happen. Because you have some professors here that are not that well, and you have some that are climbing the staircase of life, like me, and you have others who are just accidents, so you don't take any chance. If it's due, it's due on that day. Give yourself plenty of leeway to deal with it, plus you got 3 or 4 other classes to deal with, whether or not it's a final, a written final, or a paper. I don't think you do both, do you? Have a final and a paper in one class? You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well that it takes some extra hobnobbing, but be sure you have enough space. Just sacrifice, deny yourself some pleasure for about 10 days or 2 weeks to concentrate on the academic work. Be sure you get that done, that's priority.
What page count do you want again for the paper? Like total? Like
Was it
final?
10.
10?
10 to 15.
Okay.
I'll give you the leeway there because sometimes 10, you're just getting ready to expect. You have a bomb. You have a bomb, B-O-M-B, a bomb of a conclusion in the back of your head. I want 3 more pages, so you can take it.
Okay.
Yeah. You never know. The more you write, the more creative you become. If it's yours, don't give me anything that somebody else has written. No, I'll find that out quick. I want to be able to hear Miss Pruce's voice. I got to do that now. Miss Weaver's voice, I got to hear it. This is me, Miss Ruiz, with your Trinidadian accent. I want to hear it. I want to hear everything that everybody has. That way I'll know it's your paper. Please don't hesitate to put down how you feel. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. Is how you feel about it. Don't hesitate. Don't just write the way you write. Express what you want to express. Be you, be yourself. All your papers, be yourself. That's your chance to really spread your wings. I might totally disagree with you, but that's your position. So that's what I grade you on. Not on what I think. I'm not going to, oh, you're wrong here and such and such. I'm not one of those kind of professors that takes a red pen, you always use a red pen, but takes a red marker and just zips through what you've written as if it's of no account. No, everything you write down is important because it's you. So that, we'll keep it that way. Keep it honest, keep it open, and let it reflect how you really feel about a certain subject. Please, that's, again, very significant. All right, now today I'm going to ask, first of all, a question is, we really dealt with 4 phases. That we dealt with prisons, we dealt with the military, we dealt with immigration, pretty good, and we dealt with community, that historic gap between community, medical, and mental health services. Any questions at all on those 4 items? You wrote papers on 2 of them. Very good. All right, then we'll just press ahead. So today, for the final class, I want us to discuss one thing. I hear footsteps. I thought so. How you feel?
Feel pretty okay.
Good, everybody's doing good. We just decided that, right before you came in, that for our final class, we would have a big spread. But what we needed, because I hadn't contacted the financial office, what we needed was about $3,500. And everybody said, Dinga! That'll teach you to be late. And looking at all of those things, I want you to maintain what you feel might be important from either of them in terms of dealing with your final paper. But today, I want to talk about something we really haven't talked about. We've hinted at it, but we haven't really stretched it out. I want to do that because it deals again with something personal that I think would still carry some degree of significance today, although I realize that over the course of time, let's say over the course of a generation is supposed to be about every 25 years, but let's deal with it generationally. There's some things that change and can never be recaptured. Some things that were very positive and productive at one stage within our society or within our lives, we lose it. It's very, very hard to reclaim it. But even though things do change, we live in a dynamic world that's always changing. There's some things that we have to hold on to simply because they are principles or values that we live by. Now, overcoming poverty. They had a major article in yesterday's paper on the Monroe County Anti-Poverty Initiative. The question was asked, question and answer article, question was asked one of the people from the initiative, what has been done thus far to eradicate poverty? Nothing. Series of discussions, series of talks. We talked about this last week and we said that absence really conspicuously from most of these discussions, most of these talks are poor people. So, you know, the initiative itself is composed of people who are not poor. I doubt if they've ever been poor. And the reason why the facilitator, Dr. Leonard Brock, was chosen was because he at least identified with the poor, having been born into those situations and being the first of his family to crawl out of poverty and get an education. Well, that's what I want to really talk about, is the power that yet exists within our society to defeat poverty through education. My generation, the majority of African American people did not have college education. Most had a high school education, or if they didn't, they had at least the moxie to work, to facilitate entrepreneurship, some kind of business, or they could identify with some kind of hereditary work that their fathers or grandfathers did, that they found themselves involved in. Most of us as seniors in high school, that the summer between your junior class and your senior class, when everything seems to be just so dazzling, there was always work. If you were 17, 18 years old, work on a railroad, hard work, but the money was unusually good for us, like $100 a week. We didn't know what to do with that kind of money, my goodness gracious. But you know, it was there, but the work was there. The whole thing was to get you involved in work so that you can do two things. In my opinion, no one told me this, but you can either determine that when you leave high school, that's what you're going to do. You're going to stay at this place, this is where you're going to work, you're going to make a good living for yourself. Or you could think, well, I'm graduating from high school, I think I'll go on to college. The options were more than they are now, but the whole thing was education, whether or not you utilize the education of the mind or education of the hands. There was something for a person coming out of an impoverished situation to move into, to make her or his mark. A lot of the girls, you know, they already knew what they were going to do. A lot of the girls that I went to school with who were from working poor families, such as myself, they went right into college. You know, they went to school and they studied almost all of them teacher's education. And they came out elementary certified or secondary school certified to teach. And they went all over. It wasn't true with the guys. We didn't have that many options. If we were an athlete, if we were a great athlete, that always was a possibility. An athletic scholarship someplace. They would pick up a great deal of the costs. But it would have to be what they call, they didn't have those divisions in colleges, but for us it had to be Division II schools at the best, because you get a scholarship at the Division I schools are very, very tough to do. But Division II, Division III, yeah, we could do that. We could do that. We had those kind of athletic skills, at least my friends did. But education seemed to be the way up and the way out. I hear very few people talk about that today. One of the reasons is that, from my point of view, the years that I've taught in higher education, there have been a lot of students who were not academically serious. Y'all got me? All right. They could do the work. They were competent, but they were not committed. So therefore, they wasted time and they wasted resources. When I say resources, I talk to hundreds of students who were only in school because of the Pell program and because of other monetary scholarships that they could get in hand whether they went to class or not. And they would hang around the halls. They would never go to class. And as a result, over the years, the money has dried up and it's not available for students like it was in the 1970s and 1980s. Education was not even thought of as being a way out. So a lot of it is mental, a lot of it is traditional, a lot of it is just plain wrong. Education is for self-development. You know where the term education comes from? It's a Latin word. It comes from educo, E-D-U-C-O. It means that which comes out of a person. So education gives it to you, and what do? You give it back. I give you a piece of food that has not been chewed. You chew it, you digest it, and you give it back. That's how you do that. You see? Think of it. Think of education as food. It nourishes you, it cultivates you, and it gives you strength. And you take that strength and you give it to others. You show yourself applicable to them. You should understand yourself as being a savior. I want you to do that. You have something in your heart, in your mind, that's good for society. Think in terms of a savior, being a savior. Even if you influence just a handful of people in your life, that handful of people can influence others, you see. So education is important. There is no such thing as an irrelevant course of study. Why? Because there's something in every course of study that you take that can be used. There's a lot that can be thrown away, absolutely. But most of it you can keep. If you sit down to eat a big, big dinner, there's something on that plate that you might, that's regardless of other stuff you eat because it's good and it's good for you. But at any rate, always take that which is relevant to your own mentality, relevant to what you want to do in life, relevant to who you are. We must bring our personalities, who we are, into every single thing that we do. Education is I'm a faith person, but I'm not going to talk about faith. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to let that just hang over here. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about students who are in a higher education facility. This school, the University of Rochester, is recognized throughout the world for many things. It is one of the major schools in the world right now in terms of research, especially medical research, biological research. Remember that now. You're not coming from Pudong College. You're coming from the University of Rochester. So they're going to expect things out of you. They are. You tell me you graduated from U of R. I said, what? You did? Yeah. Oh. Then I will make it even harder for you. It's like, well, then you do this, you do that. I thought sure you graduated from who don't know. Where you are. So you have to take what you have with you. You're gonna be walking around with a sign. I graduated from U of R. When you apply for graduate school, whether it's here or whether it's anywhere, the fact that you graduated, got your bachelor's degree from U of R is going to carry a lot of weight. Don't hesitate to take advantage of everything that you have. It's not being elitist at all to take advantage of academic opportunities. It's being very resourceful because it leads to your commitment. We all become educated so we can give. I don't like that term, give back to the community. That don't mean anything to me. Just to give to human beings. That's sort of, whether you're in the community or not, but give back to people who are human. You know, save this world. This world is in the hand of people who are just irrational. Irrational. You know, wars, the rumors of wars, poverty, crime, violence, inhumanity. Where did all this stuff come from? It's not correct. Well, why do people go to college? To oppose those things. To take what I have, to utilize it so that evils and all other oppressive forms of expression can be encountered. Somebody, you know what somebody once said? You've heard this, I forgot who said it. But evil exists because good people do what? Nothing. Do you know that the average person walking around in the world today is a good person, a decent person? But they do nothing. So they have the power within them to make a change, but they don't do that for whatever reason. Now, I would expect that if a person goes to school, that once they take upon themselves the demands of society to go to work and to express themselves within that work, that over time things will have to change. They have to. Simply because you have a lot of people who are positive, moving the world toward a more positive relationship with one another. When you grow up, big part?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think that evil exists because evil can't exist without good, and good can't exist without evil. It's the balance of life, positive and negative. Probably, for instance, we're made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Positive charges, negative charges, and neutral charges. This is a universal law. One can't exist without the other. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have conflict, you're gonna have diverse ideas, you're gonna have disagreements, you're gonna have people that are just straight wicked, and you're gonna have people that are just straight righteous. And it's that constant battle that's been around since the beginning of time. You know, we can't avoid it. Every last person in here dealt with a conflict sometime in their lives. They dealt with some type of evil force. They dealt with some type of righteous force. They dealt with some type of good. It's all about balancing that and finding that equilibrium, not homeostasis in your life to balance out the good and the bad. You can't avoid it. Like accidents, anything you're doing, you're gonna take a risk with anything, you know. So it exists just because it's natural. It naturally exists.
Good. Now, I wasn't talking about creating a utopian society. I'm talking about taking what good you have to argue against inhumanity. That's how we become victorious. That's how we progress. I guess progressivism is a word that we should use, because I would anticipate progress wherever a number of people who are committed to human rights where they are an established force in the community, change is going to come, like Sam Cooke used to say. Now, you know where this should start? I hope all of you are in situations in life where you can deal directly with children. Do you know that in America, children have no human rights? Did you know that? That's why for so many years in this country, physical and sexual child abuse has occurred without any punitive action at all. It has only been over the last few years that state and local and even religious bodies have begun to turn attention toward the brutality being practiced against children. Worldwide, that's why they created UNESCO out of the United Nations to deal with the exploitation of children throughout the world. Children have no rights. Forgive me, Ms. Pruitt. Ms. Pruitt is Jewish. And from time to time I have to make statements that allude to Jewish communities. But I did some study on the Holocaust. And I ended up recognizing that the numbers of the Holocaust were not quite true. All of us always say 6 million, 6 million. 6 million Jews were killed by the Germans. Well, that number is higher than 6 million. It's at least 6.5. You know why? Because children, Jewish children, were not a part of those mortality statistics. And you're talking over 100,000 children that died in those gas chambers. Are you kidding me? Children? We just don't think of children as being human. Why? It is what's fed into the minds and hearts of children that produce what's going to happen tomorrow. I get so tired of seeing children doing things and acting out what they see and what they hear with respect to uninformed, negative adults. I concern myself with technology. The two little ones that my wife and I have adopted, you know, they're really into it. That's this technological thing. And I try my best to tell them, you know, the things other than all this stuff. You have, once you go older, you're gonna have to deal with people. You can't deal with those. All the answers are not technological. We've got that bridge to cross. How are we going to bring back humaneness, humanity to our thinking? Well, you start with children. Because the number of children that exist in the world today, that exist in Monroe County, not only are high on the poverty list, first in the nation, according to some statistics, but they're also high the number of children that are being abused. Physically abused, sexually abused. We have to fight this. We have to deal with it. So I hope that whatever you decide to do as a profession, that it'll, in some way, it'll call for encountering children. If you teach, boy, you really have a responsibility. If you think you're going to teach, I ask you to think about it seriously before you commit yourself to that. Because the worst thing is a teacher that just doesn't care. But if you're going to teach, be committed to children, be committed to the minds of kids. That's no matter what you have to go through to make your point, make it. No matter who you have to oppose, just oppose them. Children come first. Yes.
I am writing a paper for another class, and in my research I came across a study that said that it was a study examining like neighborhood socioeconomic conditions and comparing neighborhoods of concentrated poverty with neighborhoods of concentrated well, it found that, neighborhoods that are extremely poor tend to have higher numbers of parents who have parenting styles that are like harsh or rely on like physical aggression. So do you think that there's a correlation between poverty and child abuse?
I think so, but we have to be very, very careful. A lot of homes that are impoverished have beautiful children. They have parents who love them and protect them. And at the same time, you have suburban homes in local areas where the statistics on child abuse are quite high. We have professional people, coaches, doctors, ministers, priests, everybody who are abusing children, especially sexual abuse, boys and girls. Do you realize, I have a statistic for all of you. 1 in 4 girls under the age of 16, 1 in 4 will face sexual abuse before they reach that age. 1 in 6 boys, the same thing. So if you have 4 girls in a room, 1 of them is going to be abused. If you have 6 boys in a room, same thing. So we have to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. And the days of the nosy person seem to be over. But that nosy person was a big help, because that nosy person usually kept her ear to the wall and her eyes on the street. And they knew when a stranger was around, and they would alert everybody else. There's got somebody in this community that's not supposed to be in here. What they want, what they do. So, but that kind of thing, we have to look out for the interests of our children. But I want you to really think about this very carefully. If you go into medicine, I talked to you about pediatrics, how important it was, but you can always deal with children. I don't care what field of medicine you are. You can always deal with children. Children present a venue that all of us can gravitate toward. But whatever you do, try to have it so that your contact with a child is inevitable. It's inevitable. Counseling, boy, that's a crucial field. If you have objective counseling, one-on-one counseling, if you know how to family counsel, that's very, very important. And while it's true that poverty does produce, not poverty itself, but environmentalism produces some things we don't like alcoholism, criminal activity, maybe some, I won't say drug abuse, since that the highest number of deaths by overdosing heroin and what's that stuff, opium, what's it?
Opiates.
Yeah, that tends to come from middle class situations, but certainly alcoholism is a root factor of family destruction in the poor black community anyway, poor Latino community and the Wazai. Poor white community does not escape much of what's happening with respect to the harm that's being given to other poor communities simply because the people are poor. When you're poor, you're very, very vulnerable, believe me, because self-determination tends to be lacking. But I'm throwing that out, just throwing that out. So I don't want you, it does need to be reflected on your papers because it's kind of early yet. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're going to do. You know what? I was in college. In my sophomore year, I chose English literature as my major. That's what I graduate degree in, English literature. But I've done nothing with it. Nothing. My minor was American history and government. And I had more hours in my minor than I did in my major. But nobody ever called me. Can you teach a class on Shakespeare? Yes, I'd be happy to, but I never got that call. Elizabethan English, literature, language, never got it. Never got it. How about modern literature? Yes, I know about modern literature. England and the United States especially, I know it. I did a lecture Friday, didn't I? On Richard Wright. Yeah, novelist, great writer. I know that. But nobody has ever asked me. History, knocking on my door. First time I interviewed for a position at the University of I'm not university, at Monroe Community College, I was interviewed, and it didn't go beyond that interview. They told me I was hired right there. I knew it. I knew it. But I had no idea that would be my venue. I thought my venue would be in some small college teaching English literature. That's what I thought. Yeah, I'd be lost to the world. Nobody would know I exist. I'd be teaching. But that didn't happen. So history puts you way out there. And everybody now wants to study history. I'm glad they do.
You got a different calling.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
possible.
yeah, that's true. Got some, that's right. There's like some extra special to eat, huh? Yeah, all right. By the way, if I never tell you anything, I want you to mark this one down. Whenever you start your first professional job, and it's one of those jobs like here where they eat all the time, be sure you put in motion that you want them to have some chicken wings. Just regular plain chicken wings with everything else on the side. You can dip it into whatever you want to dip in, but chicken wings, especially clip them, so they call them wingdings. But most seriously, I want you to concentrate on kids, because that's where our present is. It's not, children are not the future, children are the present, because it's what we put into their minds now that's going to cause them to make decisions based upon that influence. What y'all got to say? Something? Yes.
Back to the education point, I feel like there's a lot of factors why impoverished people don't seek out higher education. One being money, because you have to pay for higher education. It's expensive, like not only tuition, but the books and everything else that comes with it. But also, even getting into higher education is hard, because if you don't have like the test taking skills to take the SAT or the ACT and perform well, then you're going to be stuck in certain. You're going to be either stuck in your neighborhood, or your only opportunities will be a community college. And fortunately in Rochester you do have a great community college, but that's not the case in every state or county. And then another issue that I see is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I think,
Transportation is an issue.
well, yeah, transportation is an issue. I think, and that was the thing. Like, if your only opportunity for higher education is an associate's degree, like at this point, an associate's degree doesn't really get you far, and neither does a bachelor's degree, to be honest. So I think all those things kind of prevent people who are impoverished from, and even middle class, because if you're low middle class, that all these factors make it hard for you to.
It's probably more difficult for middle class families because they're expected to put up some finance.
Right.
Whereas poor families, it can be easier in the sense that children from very impoverished families are under some kind of federal criteria, guideline, which would grant them admission into colleges. In terms of 2-year schools, Monroe Community College really, or schools like that, really can provide a step up. Because most of them have this program where a child need not have graduated from high school, open enrollment they call it, but they come in and they take, now for non-credit, English, grammar, and mathematics. If they pass those, they are admitted to first year academic standards, and they have 2 years to get their associates, and then Monroe Community College has a link to 4-year schools also, where if you graduate and are recommended by your department, you can go to another school, a 4-year college. See, Nazareth is part of it, Cayuga, I think Geneseo State College, Brockport. You can go and complete your bachelor's degree. But this is especially designed for children, students I should say, who can afford generally the cost of the tuition. But there are demands. It's no longer a free ride. You have to be academically committed to what you're doing. Academic commitment. I've spoke about the numbers of the flotsam of young people who were only in school because it was a good way to make a fast buck. They got checks every month. And whoever sent them checks never inquired if they were in class. No, they weren't in class. They were not. The Pell Grant was the first one to pull out, simply because of that. Then all the others basically began to pull out. Now, it's the school that's in control of the money, not the agencies. They get their checks by mail. And they can do it on there, they can go to class they want to. They bought cars and then all this crazy stuff.
Right. I mean, I definitely agree with that because I do know that there are people who do that and who have
Yes.
done that. But I feel like you said, well, like I said before, Monroe Community College is an exception. I've never heard of a program like that until I got to Rochester. So that I think that's what kind of continues to feed the cycle of people, even having an associate's degree and still being in poverty.
I had actually took advantage of the MCC program that he's talking about. I did the 2+2. There were a lot of things.
Good program.
There were a lot of things that I was not aware of when it came to these programs for those who are initially going to college, like the EOP program. I didn't know anything about EOP at all, and I never received it because of the ignorance of that.
And it's called the Educational Opportunity Program.
Exactly. If I'd have known about that, I would have took full advantage of that because, like, you can go to grad school off that if you start, but you have to go your first semester. Once your first semester, if you don't enroll going into your first semester, you can't take advantage of that program at all. In terms of what you're talking about, and what you're talking about, growing up, I'm just gonna be real with you guys. My mindset was on hustling. I was talking about I wanted to flip the money. So when I was thinking about college, I was thinking about getting that check and go out on the block, buy me a pack, and just bubble. That's my whole mindset. I was gonna take that check, buy a whole bunch of crack, and just hustle. And a lot of people was doing that.
Yes.
A lot of people were doing that. And I'm glad I didn't do that. I got other things that occurred in my life that deterred me from that, because when I really decided to go to college, I got serious about it. And I just took advantage of the opportunity and just ran with it. But in terms of being someone who's graduating with a bachelor's degree or an associate degree, there are a lot of success stories, and the reason being is because they were creative with their degrees and what they did after they finished their academic experience. They went into entrepreneurship, they met the right people, they got plugged into the right circles, and they just worked their network. And that can happen. It's more. It happens less than more. But it does happen, and somebody gotta have the determination to keep pushing, just keep at it, just keep going, persevering. That's my story.
That's duplicated, fortunately, but for many, many others, it's not, because they have taken the wrong route after they have an opportunity to get an education. I think they're very sorry for it, but while they're young, they don't think. And they've something in their hand that they've had for the first time in their lives is a check. And they're going to use that check, pardon me, some of them, for personal advantages rather than to increase their educational needs. Buy their books, pay attention. There's always going to be some left over for them. But to really work hard in terms of getting an education, getting their mind transformed from the world to the school for the time that's necessary to make that personal change. Yes.
So going off that, it's another thing is it's also not only socially acceptable but socially expected for someone to do that. When they said they're going to school, everyone else hears I'm getting money. So everybody just starts planning for your money, in a way. So I grew up like on the west side, and when I said I was coming to U of R, they're like, oh, you getting big money. Right, and so it was really hard for me because I was trying to get out of, like I came to college to kind of escape the situation that I was in, because I didn't make good choices, but I just didn't get caught. You know, like that's the only difference. I wasn't any better than anybody else, I just didn't get caught. But I was like, okay, well maybe this is my, like I'm gonna come to college. Well, everybody was like, I heard you're going to college, you're getting big money, we had all these plans. I was like, you know, when I said no, it really showed me who my true friends were, because the ones that, like, there was a lot of people that were like mad at me. They're like, you're fake, you're a snake, you're gonna turn on us. I'm like, there's no.
You're gonna turn to be a bourgeois.
Mm-hmm.
You know what a bourgeois is? All right.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm a very like independent person anyways. I don't really need the social acceptance, it's whatever. But for a lot of people, like people that they grew up with turning on them, that would be enough social pressure for them to give in anyways. Like, oh, you're right, like, and you know, go ahead and blow all that money. Yeah, I just like had a bigger vision, but a lot of people don't have that, and that's because it's just always been socially acceptable to enroll in school, to get the money, and then leave. And so I think it's like a bad cycle.
There's a term I hate to use, but it's so true with so many things. Programmed to fail. I think you're absolutely right. We look at it from that standpoint because it's understood. I think it is anticipated that the majority will not take advantage of it in the way that they should, and the giving agency can look back and say, well, didn't I tell you? And they'll end up like the Pell Grant, like most of them end up withdrawing the money from accessibility. So take advantage of everything that's true. Yes, it is true. We need money to get out of school, but school, if you're a good student, the school will make a way for you to stay. Yes.
I guess sort of going off of that, I think that another problem that people who grow up in poverty, or even, like you said, kind of like, I guess, lower middle class, you know, maybe where like you're not at that threshold where you qualify for government assistance, you're a little bit above it, but you're still really struggling. Like, the way that, at least in my own experience, the way that the school, like, at least this school, does financial aid, they put a lot of pressure on you, and so if you have, like, other responsibilities outside, like, I don't know, like, if you work, like, I know a lot of people who do, you know, they work basically full-time hours while they're in school full-time, and, like, then, you know, their grades start to slip, or something happens and the school is, like, really quick to, you know, to be like, oh, like, you know, you don't qualify for this grant anymore, and it becomes like a catch-up game, because you're, since there's not as much, I mean, I don't know how it was 30 years ago, or, you know, because I wasn't alive, but like, it seems to me that the costs of college have gone up astronomically, but the money that they're putting up isn't, you know, isn't covering it, so it's like, people, especially, you know, like, I guess lower income kids and families, it ends up like this patchwork of grants and loans and scholarships, and, you know, you're trying to stretch it to cover, but then like, that still doesn't cover, you know, like your living expenses or your books, you know, so like, at least that's been my experience, like, and I've sometimes, like, it really shocks me how out of touch a lot of professors are with that, because like, I had one professor who's, I'm not gonna, you know, name him, but he's a like really well-regarded professor of psychology here, and I was talking to him about take out like another loan to like cover that, like, and I was like, well, you know, I've taken out a lot of loans and I applied them all to my tuition, like I can't take out any more loans because like I'm maxed out and like my parents are like maxed out with their loans, and like he was like, well, I've never taken out a loan in my life, so like I don't really know about that.
Congratulations.
Like,
Yeah, Mr. Rhodes, what you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna add on to that point because I'm an HEOP student here,
Mhm.
so which is like higher educational opportunity. Well, for U of R, I like to see it as part of the quota, even though they tell us that we're not, but we are, because we have to come to a special summer program with most of the minorities
right.
on the campus to get assimilated and get extra credits because they obviously expect us at one point to fail 1 or 2 classes. So, and with that program, the first year they cover everything. All 60,000 was covered. Well, I had like 2,000 in loans per semester. But like, as I went on, like, they started adding, like sophomore year, I had $500 miraculously. My mom still made the same amount, which is like half of what the U of R asks in a year. So if my mom were to pay, it'd take her like 2 years for her to work in order to go here for like 1 year, which makes no sense. But like, as the years go on, they keep adding. Like this year, I had to like lower my meal plan, and
Oh, yeah.
now I'm like living off of people, you know, because I had to compensate and take that money and move it towards my like tuition. And it's like every time you go to the financial aid office, you're like, oh yeah, just take out another loan. And it's like, it's not that easy because you're not giving me a job when I graduate. I'll have this piece of paper from you, but you're not gonna set me up in a nice $40,000 starting job and like help me pay those loans back. And then I was filling out the loan exit requirement the other day, and I'm like, I don't even know all of this jargon, like all this financial fancy words. They don't help you navigate that process. They just tell you this is what you owe, when you owe, and if you don't pay it by this time, then you'll owe more. So it's like, what's the point of interest?
Yeah,
Like,
let me share this with you. I just read an article where the average, this is the average cost that a student graduating from college will owe is $300,000. Now, look, don't panic, y'all. There are certain bills currently in both the New York State Legislature and in the American Congress to promote a forgiveness act, which means that if you're a good student now, it all depends on your record. If you're really a good student and you graduate and you owe this much money, it will be forgiven, everything. That's what they have to do. And the only reason why it's being opposed at high political levels is because the opponents say, well, that's socialism. Well, so what? So what? Here we're talking young, bright minds. How can a young, bright mind function in society with this debt burden on them? They can't. It's impossible. It is impossible. So you keep going with doing what you're doing. Don't worry about the amount of money you pay. You find a good job and you work, and everything else will be taken care of. I don't want to sound oversimplified, but you're being educated not to pay the government back, not to pay a school back. They shouldn't have given it to you in the first place. That's what they want. No, you're being educated so that you can provide input to the structure of the United States of America by making it a better, more social place to live so that we can oppose the evils that exist in our community. We can eradicate the abuse of children. We can reduce crime because we have minds that are gifted dealing with these areas in ways that's never been done before. But you're going to say that they can't do it because they owe you $50,000 or $100,000? Look back at the trillions and trillions of money that the government has. They can pay everybody's college tuition, everybody's meal ticket, everybody's everything. Buy you a 1960 Plymouth and still have so much money they won't be able to pay for it. I saw somebody's hand. Yes.
So going off what you're saying, so I support like my family, but I also have to pay my bills here.
Yeah.
So the way this school works is there's a minimum family contribution that you have, no matter how much your parents make. If they make $0, my dad makes absolutely nothing, they're like, yep, it still has a minimum contribution. And then you also have a student contribution where it goes off what you make. So if you make more, you owe more. So my dad had some medical problems last year, so I had to get another job. And because I worked more hours to pay for his bills, because I had to cover his bill for his part of the contribution, and I had to pay for his medical bill, I got charged more from the school because they saw that I was making more money. Now, I'm also an HEOP, and I went to the financial aid office. I said, this is not okay. You need to, and then I kind of guilted them. I was like, well, if you're gonna make this school with $1 billion trust fund, make me drop out over a couple $100, then this is not an institution I wanna be at. She's like, well, Miss Weaver, let me make some calls. And she made some calls, and she said, I've gotten your bill of forgiveness. You know, and it's ridiculous, but
But no one fights for it.
There.
Yeah,
Like,
no one fights for
they
it.
literally have to type
get away
in
with
like,
it.
oh, let me add $500.
and then it's like, not only that, but also I see a lot of students so we don't put a lot in our public education system. Some public schools are very good if you live in a good area, but like the city school district is a really poor education system. So even if you have good grades in high school, colleges are less likely to accept you because your education isn't to the high, is like, you're not at the same level as someone who went to like, a more, Pittsburgh public school. So it's like this, even though you have better grades than this student, they're gonna get accepted because their school is more, like, yeah.
The thing about that, you know the thing that's crazy about that is that, the city school district has nearly $1 billion budget annually, and they're producing the results that they're
It's the way that, you can't just
It's
dump money
crazy.
into something and expect it to be good, you have to structure, and
Well,
it's,
structure like that on purpose, though, that's the point.
right,
They're paying for what they want. You see what I mean? You're not gonna be paying that much money, consistently, over and over again, and you're producing these type of results. That's on purpose. That's not a coincidence.
and it's like, I can even, like, see it because I went to the city schools, and so when I came here, I saw a huge gap between me and someone who went to a public school somewhere else. Like, our chemistry 131 class is like, I took Regents chemistry in high school and I got a 90. And the general chemistry, not Regents chemistry, the general chemistry from students who went to private schools covered more material than my Regents class in the public school system. And I was like, and it doesn't, the chemistry textbooks here do not start at a 100 level. They start at MCC's 300 level. How do I know? Because I have a friend who had been at MCC, he's going for engineering. And my freshman chemistry is the same as his vocational training, like his 3 years of training that he had taken to get up to that point. Same with art. And they don't offer a 101 course that you can take for no credit. They don't offer like, here's an introduction to chemistry. If they want chemistry, if they're not gonna offer a 101, they should make it a requirement that you take chemistry if you're gonna go into a certain major. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't require that. So it's already setting students who don't go to an amazing school to fail. And I went to the school and I like argued about that, and they just want me to shut up. So they
I did the
so
same thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
But they did that for physics. They put a better program in so that you can kind of get adjusted, and they don't. Same with calculus. I was taking our calc class here, and my friend was in calc in MCC. What he covered in 1 year, not one semester, 1 year is what we covered in 1 month here.
I took AP calculus in high school. Supposed to be the equivalent of the first semester of
They
calculus
lied.
here. I got hundreds in AP Calc in high school and got a B in calculus here. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't equate.
The thing about it, right, so remember I said something about the money that the city school district is receiving? A lot of people are being paid, first of all, you have a lot of administrators that's getting high paid salaries. You know, that's in the central office or whatever. But then you have a body of people that are essentially being hired to be babysitters instead of teachers. You know what I mean? So you got substitute teachers, like a long-term substitute teacher, they're making $224 a day just to come into the schools and essentially babysit. They don't have to grade papers or anything like that, especially if they're a long-term substitute teacher. Somebody else supposed to be doing the grading. They're in the class all day, and they only have to be there from 9 o'clock to 3:30. 3:30 come and leave, and they don't have to grade no tests, nothing. Just babysitting.
Well, while we still have a little time, I want to ask Taylor about she's a pre-med major, and she's in medical school. And when you came to the University of Rochester, was there any disconnect between the biological work that you've done in college and the chemistry and physics work that you've done? I know that's a heavy requirement for a medical school.
Yeah, I can't necessarily say that I wasn't prepared in regards to like the coursework, like the actual coursework that we did, because a lot of the stuff that we learned in college is similar to what you just said. You learned not in a month in medical school, you learn in a day. like seriously, like a whole course you learn in a day or like 3 days. So that was pretty tough, but I think that was I think that was a situation that most people were in. I think the hardest part for me was my school was rigorous, but I don't think it was rigorous enough to where I felt that I had great study skills to come to medical school and be able to, make that transition successfully. So that was my issue more than anything else. I don't think the coursework was something that I felt like was the gap between undergrad and medical school, because like I said, most of the stuff that you learn in undergrad, you'll learn in a few days once you get to medical school, plus one.
That's great.
Now to Ms. Ruiz and to, I think it was Ms. Weaver, let me share with you, and don't throw anything at me, that in 1973, long before y'all were born, 1973 though, I was invited to Eisenhower College, it's now defunct. It was between Rochester and Syracuse, named after the president, Eisenhower. I was invited there to meet with a handful of people to construct the HEOP program. So I was a part of the initial construction of it, and I did teach, but I taught the summer of 1987 through 1990, 4 summers at something called the Summer Institute at Nazareth, where we entertained students who were from out of the area, teaching them certain courses so that they can be ready to take advantage of the HEOP. They came on the HEOP scholarship. I don't know how many schools continue that now, not all of them, I'm sure, but I don't know how viable the program is. I've been away from it. When you mentioned HEOP, that was the first time I've heard HEOP in 2 or 3 years. EOP, yes. HEOP is a little different.
It's for private schools.
HEOP, is for private schools, and EOP is for state schools.
Okay, that's how they're distinguishing it now. Okay,
But I
all
think
right.
it's still like state money as well. Because you still get TAP and like Pell and all of that stuff.
Is it the same program, it's just got H on it?
Yeah, it's the
Basically,
same
yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. Okay, this is our last class. I want to thank you for your participation. I think it went well. It's 5 after 10, 10 after 10. remember now, we will come together on next Wednesday, but as soon as I get your papers, we'll say goodbye.